Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Disney Debate, where Kat Mac and I talk about Disney products and Disney in general. How's it going today, Kat?
Doing pretty good. It's nice to get back to an actual review in chronological order.
Yeah, it's been a while since we did one of those. I had forgotten that we actually did reviews. What do we do again?
Something involving pie?
But yes, today we are actually viewing another canonical Disney film. We viewed The Great Locomotive Chase, and I have to say this is probably one of the better live-action films we've seen on the show.
Oh, definitely. Better, much better than The Littlest Outlaw, better than Davy Crockett.
Yeah, Davy Crockett was fun and campy, but as an actual whole, it didn't work too well together. Littlest Outlaw, just no. Even Doug can attest to that. Say hi, Doug.
Hi, Doug. But yeah, I didn't get to see Littlest Outlaw, but I did see Great Locomotive Chase, and I completely agree with you guys.
If you don't know, Doug is basically the behind-the-scenes line producer for us. He helps us remember stuff when we forget it, and he watches a lot of the films with us. So he is a official part of the Disney debate.
Yay!
From the very beginning.
I'm
Yes.
helpful.
He's also my camera monkey.
No, he's my camera monkey.
No, he's mine. I see him more than you do.
But anyway, so yeah, we watched The Great Locomotive Chase, and out of the live-action films we've seen from the 50s, I'd say this is the second best. The best still goes to Treasure Island, in my opinion, if I can recall. But I think The Great Locomotive Chase does something right in the fact that it actually it builds a lot of tension, and it has a great payoff.
Yeah, and here's the interesting thing. It's actually based on a real-life event, so technically this is sort of a documentary. And they don't change any of the names or anything, and they pretty much follow the events right down to a T.
Yeah, I was really surprised that they hadn't changed any of the names. If it was produced in modern times, they'd be like, names have been changed to protect the innocent. You can't know about these people's names, or their identities will be in public. Woo.
Well, I mean, considering that this is like a historical event, I mean, for those of you who never heard of the Great Locomotive Chase, it's an event that happened in 1862, about a few years before the Civil War ended, and it involved a group of Union soldiers who snuck down to the South, stole a locomotive train with the intent to basically cause sabotage throughout this entire line of railroad. I think it stretched over like 80 miles, and had they actually succeeded, they would have single-handedly won the war. Like, they would have ended it years earlier than it would have. And unfortunately, they didn't succeed. Sadly,
They got very, very close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like they got as far as about stealing the train and everything, and like cutting wires. Unfortunately, they couldn't burn any bridges or blow up any camps or anything like that, like they intended to. All because of one man, a conductor by the name of William Fuller, who is possibly the most determined, loyal train conductor I've ever seen in my life.
Give this guy a medal. Nothing deters him.
He did get a medal, actually.
He gets a hole blown in his train. Nope, keep going. He drives the train backwards most of the way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, William Fuller chased these men over 80 miles of track, going on foot, going on rail cart, going on 2 different steam engines, and he actually managed to stop them. Like that. I know he's for the Confederacy, and the Confederacy was like bad and all, but seriously, major balls, man.
Yeah, this guy was seriously badass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not to say that the Union soldiers weren't badass either. I mean, they pretty much just risked life and limb in order to carry out this mission. And true, while it didn't succeed, at the same time, like seriously, the fact that they were able to get as far as they did is really impressive.
Yeah, the guy heading their operation, Andrews, persuaded himself through like 15 different train stops, all while being chased.
Hmm. Yeah, so, and like I said, the way they portray this in the movie, like you actually, when you read it, like in like a history book or online or something, and then you watch the movie, like I said, they get like every little detail down. Like I don't really think they changed anything aside from perhaps the ending, like a little piece in the ending.
Mm-hmm. So. And honestly, the beginning of it reminds me a lot of an audiobook because the way they portray things, it's pretty much this guy narrating what happened and as you would hear it in a book.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was an interesting way to do things. And it may sound like that would be boring, but it's actually pretty engaging.
Mm-hmm. Granted, the movie does start off slow, because like any audiobook, you gotta sort of get into it a bit, because of course they sort of tell this story. The whole thing is pretty much told in a flashback. Like it starts with the guys who managed to survive the ordeal, getting medals and everything, and it's pretty much told from the accounts of William Pittenger about how it all started and everything that led up to it. And yeah, it is pretty slow because they're pretty much going through the whole plans and what to do and everything.
And the first 20 minutes isn't the most engaging, but it does set things up nicely. And I do like the fact that it operates realistically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. They try to give. Here's the thing. Like, there's about how many? There's at least like 20 guys that are involved in this operation, and they do their best to give some of them like distinct personalities and everything. Not all of them, obviously, because hey, it's like 20 guys here. But for the most part, the people are distinguishable.
They are, but at the same time, they operate more as a whole, as a unit, instead of individuals. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't really pick too many individuals out besides Pittenger and Andrews.
Well, you have Bill Campbell, the big gruff guy with the angry mustache, who hates the fact that they have to sneak around. You have Bill Buffum, who has a Massachusetts accent, which almost gets them caught at one point.
There is that. They all have their minor roles to play. It's just what gets me is that it's not really, it's really the company story more than the individual story of each individual man,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I believe our big lead is James Andrews, the leader of the whole operation, and he's played by good old Fess Parker.
Yeah, Mr. Squinty.
You should all remember him as Davy Crockett. Now he's James Andrews.
And honestly, he does a much better job in this.
I agree. Like, he's not trying to do some weird, like, southern accent this time. He sounds a bit more dignified and serious. And, his performance isn't as campy as it was in Davy Crockett.
I think Andrews was somewhat understated as a character. He definitely is one of the main characters of the film, but it focuses more on the company.
It does. Well, Andrew's whole thing, Andrew's story is actually kind of tragic when you think about it. Because he pretty much spends his whole career as a spy for the Union, basically, integrating himself among the Southerners, learning their secrets, only to backstab them. And when he finally gets back, and he's like, okay, I don't want to be a spy anymore. I want to, be a regular foot soldier, live out in the open, have a normal life. And they're like, oh, okay, you can do that. Just do this one last mission for us, and then we'll let you do it. Yeah, that doesn't work out.
Yeah, because, well, he's pretty amazing at what he does, and he persuades everyone that the train that they have will bring them to Beauregard, I believe it is.
Yeah, General Beauregard.
And so he persuades everyone, but in the end they're caught, obviously, and he pays the ultimate price.
And I can say this in the most literal sense. He was 1 day away from retirement.
That is the most morbid joke we have featured on this show.
Darkest sketch. Darkest sketch.
Darkest sketch.
But yeah, he was really close to retirement, and he would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling Confederates.
Or more literally, that meddling conductor. And that's the interesting thing is that, you know, had they not been on opposite sides, they possibly would have been friends. Because you see that they do have a mutual respect for each other, like in the few scenes that they do have together.
Yeah, there's a really nice scene at the end where he talks to the conductor, and he's like, you know what, we have our own ways of doing things, but at the end of this war, both sides are going to have to shake hands. That's the way things are going to have to be, because otherwise this war is going to keep going on. And you can see they both have mutual respect for each other, even though he is hung at the end.
Yeah, and even though Campbell is still butthurt over the fact that he lied to him and stole his train.
You called yourself Yankee deserters, and now you're for the Yankees. How dare you?
Oh, yeah, speaking of Fuller, is it just me, or does he look like Ewan McGregor if he had a mustache?
I don't know who Ewan McGregor is.
Obi-Wan Kenobi in the new in the Star Wars prequels.
Moulin Rouge.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess.
That's what it looked like to me when I first saw it. But I thought he did a good job as the conductor, because just by how relentless he was in his pursuit. Like, you see him, like, run a very long distance ahead of the other people he was working with. And he has, like... You see him at one point, he has the train go through a tunnel despite the fact that they could risk ambush from the opposing train. And he even has the train go over a bridge and pretty much ram a burning boxcar. And then they actually push that boxcar out of the way and away from the bridge before it burns.
Yeah, by the end of the journey, their train is just pretty much the locomotive. Mm-hmm. That's all they have left.
Yeah,
all the boxcars are either destroyed or, you know, burned or in shambles.
Mm-hmm. I just love how, like, no matter what obstacles they threw in his way, he would immediately, like, brush it aside and just keep going.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed the conductor character. I mean, not just for his determination and for his badass attitude, but he's a generally sympathetic character. Because they don't play him up as a stereotypical Disney villain. He's not evil. He's fighting for a cause that he believes is right.
Mm-hmm. And he wants his train back, damn it.
Yeah. So I thought the two main characters in this case, Andrews and the conductor, were both given good roles in this. I rather enjoyed watching them. Much more so than I can say in the case of, like, Davy Crockett or something, where no one person steals the show. They both get their time to shine, and then you get to see what the company is up to.
Mm-hmm. Plus you see, like, Andrew's role kind of diminishes throughout the film. Like, at first he's, like, the man with the plan. He manages to, like, bluff his way really well across some major barriers. But by the end of it, when they're pretty much cornered, like, he has no choice but to, like, have them run away. And then eventually when they get tired of his, like, sneaking around plans, he just, you know, lets them do their own thing by basically outright using force. And pretty much he, like, ends up being left behind after they all manage to escape. So he pretty much loses everything in this, and it's kind of really tragic to watch.
It is a really tragic end, because even watching the beginning, I wasn't expecting it to turn out quite like that. Because at the end, they're all trapped in a Confederate prison, and they're set to be executed. And basically what Andrews does is he tricks the main guard, and he helps most of the men escape.
Yeah, and I actually thought it was quite funny, you know, because they're all just like, let's just all escape at once, and let's take on the guards barefisted against their guns. They won't be expecting that. And I'm thinking, yeah, there's no way this could possibly go wrong.
And yet the whole time they come in bare fists against guns, and they win. I'm like, you have guns. Use your guns or your bayonets. Confederate soldiers, what are you doing?
Yeah, and strangely enough, most of them do manage to get away. I mean, I think that's the slight change they did with in terms of history, is that there was a prison break, but like only 8 of them escaped. The rest were either executed or were used in like a trade-off in terms of the prisoners of war. But in this, they make it look like that pretty much everyone except for the 8 people managed to get away.
So what did you think of the company themselves? Like, I know you mentioned individual people, but as a whole, the company.
I thought that they were very underutilized for the most part. And when I really thought about it, it didn't make sense for Andrews to really pick that particular unit to help him. Because the entire time, they're pretty much, you know, like, they're pretty much there just to be the muscle and everything, which is good, which is needed. But at the same time, you see that they're very frustrated. Like some of them obviously have deep-rooted hatred for the Confederacy, and some, while they do manage to make nice with some of the Confederates, at the same time they find themselves conflicted, and that kind of interferes with their whole, spy personas. And a lot of the time, they're pretty much just waiting, like either in the boxcart or somewhere, just, waiting for Andrews to work his magic and get from point A to point B, and that you see them get more and more impatient as the movie goes on. It's like, we're soldiers, not spies. We have to go out there, we have to kick ass and blow shit up. And
You're not soldiers anymore.
Yeah, like, in that case, like, I can understand their frustration, because obviously this whole, like, thing is new to them, but at the same time, you'd think they'd sort of be expecting something like that, or at least Andrews would have been more selective with the people that he chose, because there is, like, on a few occasions where they almost do get their cover blown, like, Bill Campbell, he can't act for shit. I mean, in the sense of, pretending to be a Confederate sympathizer, because there are, like, 2 occasions where he almost loses it.
And there's points where, like, they play Yankee, quote-unquote, Yankee tricks on the Confederates. And I'm just like, why? You're infiltrating something. You don't do shit like that.
Yeah. I just think that, like, I keep thinking, like, why do they bring these people along? Like, I guarantee you, your entire mission's gonna get blown because of this one person. But thankfully it never happens, of course, Fuller's the big reason why their mission didn't succeed, but at the same time, you see at multiple points, they're like, we're not doing this anymore, we're gonna do it our own way, and I keep thinking, oh, sweet Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that the film wasn't just focusing on Andrews, and it wasn't just his story, it was about the company. At the same time, I can really see what you're saying in the fact that the company, they aren't really fully dimensional characters. You can see them as real people, and they do act like it, but at the end of the day, they're really frustrating.
Yeah, like, I guess in a way they do their job, though, because you're supposed to, like, sort of, like, feel what they were feeling going through the whole ordeal. like, naturally they would be on edge, they'd be worried about being caught, and of course, they're completely out of their element, so there's really not, nothing they can do to help the situations or crises when they get into it. But at the same time, yeah, it does, like, it is kind of annoying, though. Just when they keep saying, let's stop at the spies, let's get out there and shoot people. It's just annoying because you know how that's going to turn out. And you think people who are, like, in the military would, like, know what happens when you go in guns blazing with no plan. So, maybe that's just me. But that's what I think.
Yeah, honestly, I think the strength of the characters isn't on the company. It's on the conductor and on Andrews, and they're both very well likable characters. If a touch underutilized, as the same way the company was underutilized. But I think the real strength of this is the story. And it's not a complex story, but the way it's executed is very interesting. It does have a slow build-up, and the ending is a little bit slow too. But once you get to the train, everything is tense, everything is on edge, and every single train stop is a nice bit of, okay, will they make it? How far will they make it? Because in the beginning, they don't actually tell you how far they got.
Yeah, you kind of have to look up little facts like that to see, like, how far they actually went and what towns in particular they went to, but they made it over a pretty impressive distance. And actually, from what I read, like, because this always, like, sort of bothered me the first time I watched it, because I'm thinking, how the hell does this Fuller guy manage to catch up with them so easily? But looking up the train speeds and everything, they apparently the fastest these things could go were like 20 miles per hour, maybe on a good day 40. So theoretically, Fuller or someone else could have caught up to them on foot if they were persistent enough. But yeah, that's a very long distance.
Yeah, 80 miles, and they're only going 20 miles an hour, if that, and they run out of wood sometimes, and they run out of water to cool down the train, and they keep having to stop at these junctions, so they're not always constantly traveling at 20 miles per hour. So the fact that they made it that far is really impressive, and honestly, I'm a sucker for a good chase. Car, train, boat, whatever. Mm-hmm. And this movie, for the most part, I'd say 75% of this film is a train chase, and it's really well done.
Mm-hmm. I was really impressed that they were able to drive that one train backwards over all those miles.
Yeah, they're driving this train backwards, and then as it's driving backwards, it's hitching up to other cars that have holes in it and stuff like that, and they just keep chugging on. And honestly, I think that's where this film really shines. The characters do have a little bit flaws and stuff like that, but the basic premise, a train chase, I can get behind that. I really think that's what hooked me into this film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it has its like really intense moments where you think that they're gonna make it. You see its other points where you think they're gonna get caught. You see other points where you think they've outrun Fuller. Other points where Fuller catches up, and it's like it's an emotional roller coaster because you keep thinking, "Oh, come on."
Yeah, come on. And then they're like very, very close to their destination, and they're like, I thought I just saw smoke over the horizon. Aw, come on. He couldn't have survived that. Aw, crap.
I know. I kept, like, saying that every time that he managed to get past an obstacle, I'm like, what the fuck, man? It's like, are you Jesus or something? You just, like, bat your hand and shit flies out of the way for you?
In terms of cinematography, I think this is a bit simplistic, but it works for what this film is going for. And I definitely think it looks better than some of the other films we've seen. It's definitely much more, it's much better filmed than The Littlest Outlaw. It's much better filmed than, say, I'm drawing a blank here.
So Dear to My Heart?
Yeah. It's much better filmed than So Dear to My Heart. There's purpose in the shots. and it definitely translates the action well. Again, it's still somewhat simplistic, but for the time, I'd say it was pretty good filmmaking. Not Stagecoach levels of awesome, but still really well done.
Mm-hmm. And it's
especially with practical effects.
Yeah, and it's cool that they did it on an actual train and, a railroad line, which they, reserve specially for filming. I mean, there are times where you can tell that they're doing it behind a green screen. But for the most part, it is like real life, like actually happening. Like there's no like trick photography or any fake sets or anything.
They said they actually thanked the B&O Railroad for their help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it really shows. It really shows that there's a lot more dedication to authenticity in this film than a lot of the other films that we've seen. There's no scenes like in Rob Roy with the boulder that was hilarious. There's no scenes like in I forgot the name of the film, but with the silly fighting.
Sword in the Rose?
Yeah, like in The Sword in the Rose with the silly fighting. This is why we have Doug around.
Thank you, sweetie.
But yeah, it all feels much more coherently filmed, and much more solid than stuff we've reviewed in the past. In terms of music, there's really only 3 major songs in the film, and really they don't have a large impact. The first one is the Confederates singing about how cool it is to be a Confederate.
Yeah, I think that song was put there just as like a test and basically to piss off, the Union soldiers. Like you see Bill Campbell's like ready to lose it during the song.
It's interesting, but it just kind of goes nowhere, and it doesn't really have a nice melody to it. I'd say the other 2 songs are better, but they're not memorable.
Well, that one song is Way Down South in Dixie.
Yeah, Way Down South in Dixie is good, but at the end of the day, it's not something I'm going to be whistling to myself. It's a nice melody, and I think it really fit with the piece. But, again, this isn't a film that's striving to be a musical, but we remember Disney a lot for their songs. And so, in terms of music, I don't think this is the strongest film.
Well, Disney didn't make Way Down South in Dixie. Like, I think that was already like a common song. Yeah,
so that at least, you can tell the difference between the songs, like the ones that are manufactured and the ones that are not.
Mm-hmm. But and here's the interesting thing. From what I see, not many people liked the Great Locomotive Chase when it first came out, and it's kind of been sort of, swept under the rug since then. Not because it's bad or anything, but because I guess people weren't used to seeing, a documentary from Disney and were like, where's the romance? Where's the fantasy? Where's, like, the high action, like, packed scenes and stuff? And I guess that's why it didn't do so well, but, like, I personally think that this is, like, an underrated classic, because, it's one of their first documentaries, and it's a documentary that they did well.
Yeah, and it's a lot different than, like, a nature documentary where, stuff actually does happen, and it's not trying to be Stagecoach. They don't have that kind of filmmaking prowess at that time. And then again, Stagecoach is, like, a really amazing film. But what they did try to do is they tried to get the realism of what actually happened. And from what I saw, I think they really captured that essence.
Yeah, I agree, too. And, like, I keep thinking that if they made this again in, like, modern times, they could possibly epicify it a bit. With the, like, better angles, like, more intense, like, action and stuff. But then again, they'd probably, add a lot of other unnecessary stuff that didn't happen. Probably
they would turn the trains into Transformers. Don't tell me they wouldn't, because they would.
No, I agree. But for what it is, it does its job. It does a good job. I mean, it may not be the most memorable in terms of like characters or anything like that, but you know, it's based on a real event, and you kind of got to stay close to the source material with that.
Yeah, it's not like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, where, you know, you really feel for the characters and where there's a lot of epic things happening, but it really draws you into the conflict of the story in this film, and, again, train chase. It's a film about a train chase, and, you know, for this point in time in Disney history, I think it worked well. I think it's an underrated classic. So overall, what would you say about the film?
I'd say definitely give it a watch, especially if you're a history buff, because, again, this is history, and these are men who put, you know, their whole lives on the line just to end a war early so millions of lives could be saved. And true, while they didn't succeed, at the same time, you really got to give them props for, you know, making a darn good effort. And heck, even give props to Fuller for actually single-handedly stopping them. So and like I said, it is slow at the beginning, and it drags a bit at the end, but the middle part is amazing to watch, and I definitely recommend it.
I'm gonna have to agree. Like I said, while the characters they're not as developed as I would like, I think Andrews and Fuller both do a great job. They're great to watch in their scenes. And I think it's delight seeing them in the train chase. That centerpiece that lasts for most of the film is what this film is all about. And if you can last like the first 20 minutes or so, just give it a watch. I would definitely recommend it. While it's not the best in terms of music, it's not trying to be. It's a documentary, and so I can forgive that. And I do think the cinematography is much improved from past films. So that's my take on it. What did you think, Doug?
I thought it was very well done. Possibly a little slow at times, but yeah, I thought they accomplished what they needed to. And yeah, I thought that one guy was like really, really stubborn. I mean, there were so many things that really should have stopped him and not just, you know, been a minor inconvenience. But it's just crazy to see, you know, the human spirit at work in this.
Sir, the train is on fire. Yeah, it's just a little fire. Keep going.
But no, seriously, this was quite a good historical reenactment. Granted, there are some things, you know, other than that I don't quite buy, but I can let it slide and I can, you know, be taken in by everything.
Yeah, I have to say this was a pleasant surprise, especially after The Littlest Outlaw and some of the other less memorable films we've seen in the 50s. But what do we have for next week?
Let me see. Oh, yes.
Going back to Davy Crockett.
Oh, yeah. Yes, we are going back to Davy Crockett, and this time it is Davy Crockett and the River Pirates, which technically is a prequel.
Yay, more Fess Parker.
Yay. Yay, more squinty-eyed man.
And I'm just hoping that because this is a prequel and it's not like 3 films put together like a TV series, I'm hoping that it's a lot more cohesive than the original Davy Crockett was.
Well, I've seen it already, and it's actually 2 separate stories, but they kind of flow together a lot better than the first one did. And yeah, I assume this has to have taken place like before the other movie, because they're pretty much just wandering around the frontier at this point, but you know, I think we'll find this a little more pleasant and engaging than the first.
I'm just hoping for more of that alligator fighting. Stock footage, yay!
No, unfortunately there's no stock footage, but we get some rather amusing stunt work.
Yay!
Which you will say.
But anyway, guys, that was the Great Locomotive Chase. Thank you guys for watching again. If you have any comments, criticisms, suggestions, or Disney movie suggestions that we haven't covered yet, or Disney products that you'd like us to cover, please let us know at blip.tv/Media Meltdown, or you can always follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/JenniferRule, twitter.com/EphraimTRabbit, or you can always follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/JenniferRule, facebook.com/CatMac, and facebook.com/DougBerry. You can also go to our fan pages at facebook.com/TheDisneyDebate and facebook.com/TeamDieZenith, and chat with us, let us know what you think of the show, and make suggestions, interact with us. We always love interaction, don't we, Kat?
Oh, yes. We love it. We're attention whores.
But until then, I am Zenith Rule.
And I am Kat Mac /EphraimTRabbit/CatTCritic. And the voice you hear in the background is my boyfriend Doug Berry /OneSatMorn.
Hi, Doug.
And we will see you guys next time for more campy Davy Crockett goodness.
Thank you for watching the Media Meltdown. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more awesome videos. And if you like what you see, show your support on the Patreon page at patreon.com/Media Meltdown. See you all next time on the Media Meltdown.